everybody.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Living large.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Dennis.
Hey, Nicole.
Hello.
Jason, is it official? Are you COVID free?
Jason, you're muted.
I find out in a couple days. Nobody's calling me to tell me I am, so I suppose that's a good thing. Hopefully my house will stay there.
Give you a call either way, wouldn't they?
I've been told by others that the plan is if you're tested and you're positive, they let you know right away. And if you don't, or I say if you don't test positive, they send you an email when they get around to it.
Just to keep the anxiety up a little bit, I suppose.
I've broadened my skills in the way of Microsoft Teams this week, though. So
There you
I don't
go.
know how my students like it.
How do you like Teams?
It's free, and the college provides it. I like that I can hand out assignments. There's less clicks than our regular interface, which is called Blackboard. So,
Yep.
As students get used to it, they seem to be all right with the whole thing. From a facilitation standpoint, I'm irritated that I have students who do not want to turn on their cameras. Now, the truth is, I may not want to see what's there if their cameras were on, but it's very hard to talk to the wall.
I get it.
Luckily, I'd say they're getting used to it because now midway through a presentation, I can say something specific to what happened in class with a kid, and they'll turn on their mics and, reply. So at least there's something. I know there's somebody listening.
That's good. I kind of prefer Zoom.
Well, Zoom certainly seems to work for you, Don. So, hey, I like watching this. Our college wants absolutely no part of Zoom. The professional end of Zoom where you can have, which I assume you're using, unlimited or nearly unlimited users. They don't want it anywhere near our school infrastructure.
I'm actually limited because I bought the lowest level, but I have yet to get to the point where I have maxed it out. So originally I thought perhaps if there was that many people that showed up, then it would be worth my money. But thus far, no reason to spend any more. And it really was reasonable for like me. For an institution, a bit more expensive, I'm sure.
Illinois is kind of like you, Jason. They don't want anything to do with it, the state of Illinois.
I know that LTC has been using Blue Jeans. I've only done one meeting through it. I don't know if they're doing class stuff through it or not, but
I've used Skype for business, and I think it's linked in with Zoom now, so it's pretty much the same thing. But I've had difficulty with other software as it doesn't allow me to do enough flexibility as a facilitator, or it's limited in capabilities on what you can do with the people who show up. Like I could immediately right now say, hey, let's go into a breakout. look at how many people we have, determine how many people I want in a room, and go to a breakout, which I think is pretty cool.
I agree. I think that's why my kids' teachers are using the Zoom platform. They seem to like it a lot. And my kids are, well, you know, they're kids. They're doing what they need to do, I guess. But if it's intuitive enough that my 9-year-old quickly adapted and became a user, it can't be that bad.
Yeah, I was going to say Microsoft just stopped Skype for Business. They changed it to Microsoft Teams. That's what we use on my day job. It's about the same as Zoom, but I think I like Zoom better. But Teams is pretty good because it's like an instant messenger that all the team members can keep track of what each other are doing, and you can share documents and other things on that platform.
My wife actually uses Google Meet for her classrooms. It's a government piece of software that, you know, it's distributed through her system. And so it seems to be almost as flexible. And it has the advantage of locking into the other Google software for students at home. But it seems like students at home suffer through it. It's not as intuitive as what they're used to with Microsoft or Zoom. Wow. Rider training must be coming to an end. More people are showing up.
Well, come on, it's October, Don. Depends what part of the country you're in, because it's been wet and rainy here the last week, and I was teaching Monday, Tuesday with this on too.
Yeah, I heard there's snow in some places. Wisconsin.
Kansas City had snow, I heard. Is that right, Rita? No, you're in Wisconsin. I'm thinking of somebody else.
I'm in New York.
Or I'm thinking of I can't remember who's that coach is. I know in the Kansas City area now. I'm drawing a CRS moment.
Well, then didn't you just sort of answer your own question by saying where he's located?
What's that?
You just said you were trying to remember where he's at, and then you said you can't remember his name because he's in Kansas City. I'm trying to connect the synapses here.
Yeah, it was a lady, and I think it was, I can't remember her name. Is it Teresa Rogers, I'm thinking? Does anybody remember? You know, I have CRS moments more than I care to admit sometimes.
That comes from being OAS, you know.
All right, Don, refresh my memory what that is.
I'll let you commiserate that on a while.
Okay. Just for that, I may have to step away and get a beer.
Yeah, that'll help. So
as far as snow, real quick, I had snow come down here, I think Sunday night. Nothing really stuck. I had to scrape my windows on my van on Monday morning, but I know that there's some on the ground in northern Wisconsin.
It snowed here last week, and it is still here.
Well,
Refresh me on where here is, Laura.
Minnesota.
Well, Minnesota, I can understand.
No. This is not normal at all. In fact, 2 nights ago, I was wearing my down coat, a hoodie, both with the hoods up, and a hat to walk my dogs. And I think the temperature was like 20. And then yesterday I read that the average temperature for this time of year here is 54. So we're having fun.
Yeah, it sounds like St. Louis. Sometimes the temperature, one day the temperature's in the 80s, next day it's in the 40s or 50s.
Don, my email just beeped. I am totally COVID negative today. We'll see how next Friday goes when I get retested.
Yeah, that's good to hear, Jason. Hopefully you stay negative. I had the pleasure of being positive back in July, but thankfully I was asymptomatic.
I only know a negative Jason. That's just saying.
You're number one. I'll show you later.
Hey, Jason, is that something you're drinking that we all would like?
Well, Well, of course.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna get one too.
Water for Milwaukee.
Oh,
I don't know.
PBR, oldie but goodie.
I was gonna say some of us have good taste in beer.
Okay, I'll go get a Bud Select. I'll be right back.
No, I said good taste in beer.
That's what I said. I said I'm gonna get a Bud Select. I'll be right back. Matter of personal preference, gang.
Oh, I know.
Hey, Don, there's a meeting tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I would have put out a reminder on regular email. However, I lost a computer this week. I'm in the middle of reloading everything, and priority was not email yet because it's better that way. Sadly,
Is this a pop quiz, Don?
I don't know.
No, I'm sorry, Robin is sharing a
That's-
screen.
Robin's, sharing us some HTML bullshit.
I thought it was only going to share to my friggin' feed, not to everybody's like whatever.
Nope.
This is what I'm doing while I'm in here.
That
Excellent.
sounds like so much fun.
He's very fascinating stuff from gang. Yeah, not really. But it has to be
Lisa,
done.
you haven't been around a while. What's up?
Who?
Oh my goodness. I just now let up with classes. We had 3 classes, some crazy ram scheduled 3 classes a week and tried to make up for COVID. And then we just now backed off to 2 a week. So
How much longer do you imagine you'll go?
so normally I just have 1 or 2 classes in December and then maybe 1 in January and 1 in February. Then we ramp back up again. I put 1
Where
in,
are you?
but we might, if we can cancel it, then we just move it around. I'm in Oklahoma.
Where are you? Okay. Thank you.
Tulsa. Yeah, Tulsa. I should put that on there. I'm on so many Zooms that I have all kinds of stuff. Are you guys using the and you probably already talked about this, but are you using the MSF interim programs?
At LTC, at Lakeshore Tech College in Wisconsin, we were.
So
You'd say the
Illinois,
Wisconsin got the
Massachusetts,
you can run
Minnesota.
some of it, but not all of it.
No, we've been doing it here and we love it. I mean, it's really saved us from, well, I tried to rent a room when this first started going on and no one would rent to us. And we had a itty bitty classroom, otherwise known as a kitchen, and, well, sort of a break room and kitchen, but it barely held 8 people. And we tried to cram 14 in there with 12 and 2 coaches. So, we just hadn't have another choice. So it's been great for us. I just didn't know if anybody else had used it or not.
Here in the New York City area, we've been using it since July. Everything's outdoors. It really works well.
Yeah, I was wondering how many people across the United States have a 5 written on their thumb.
But that's a great activity.
Oh yeah.
Really enjoy. When I first did it myself, I was like, wow, that really proves the point.
Now, I will admit we've had some African Americans come through that I don't really know how to put a 5 on their thumbs. So that's been a challenge.
I was going to say, I do have something that works with that challenge. People that didn't want to do the 5, if you look at focusing on like the lines on, like your knuckle, I guess it would be, and you try to get both in perfect focus, it works just as well. So some people that are apprehensive about doing the writing, I say, okay, if you don't want to do the writing, try to do this focus. And it's pretty much the same. They're right at that 3 degree when they get in good focus.
That's a good idea. Because like I had a lady with some tattoos on her knuckles and she didn't want to write on them. And so I was like, oh, that is a good point. So, I mean, she just got them. So, yeah, but I see them practicing that on breaks.
We've
I
all
spent
They
$1.
spend $11 and buy stickers for people.
I spent $1 and bought some colored dot stickers, and I used those. I actually had the students write their names on them, so it would give them something to, because then you can do the color and what they see on the sticker.
Oh, it's a great idea.
That is.
Yeah. I've missed you guys. Yeah. Not you, Dawn, just everyone else.
Ah, poor Don.
I know.
Yeah, it's good.
Meeting of the minds.
Paul, you were saying something.
Paul?
Or not.
You can use Morse code if you want, Paul.
That's what it sounded like.
That was me tapping.
Oh.
I didn't have the music from the game show, so. All right, so it's kind of quiet, and I have a meeting that I haven't, really concentrated on for tomorrow. So maybe y'all can help me out. If, as a writer coach, you were looking into the future and you had professional development coming up with your program, what would be an activity or an event that you thought would be good for other writer coaches and you for professional development and getting ready for next year?
One thing that comes to mind for me, I don't know how everybody else works this way, or how many other coaches teach either at full size range and or compact range. And I do both. There is a difference in how that is approached, because there's a different set of range cards for compact versus full size range. Talk amongst yourself.
I think since most of us are here in New York, we're using the interim curriculum, and it did just kind of get dumped on us, so I guess everybody's been doing their best with it, but without any formal review or anything. And I think it'd be a good idea to have some breakouts that address the interim curriculum if we're going to keep using it. They keep talking about no classroom. We'll see what happens with that. But I think it'd be good to flesh out what the interim curriculum consists of and what are the parts that are missing, that have dropped out of the classroom. And mostly it's e-course review, but I know that those segments that are missing contain places where I would throw in content as knowledge test review and, different topics that could come out, and also cross-referencing to what happens on the range. So some of those opportunities got lost, and I'm always looking for places to stick them back in.
So, Lynn, I know what you're talking about. Some of it is missing. So what we're doing is a Zoom course. It's a 2-hour review of the e-course, and it kind of gets the students in touch with the coaches. This might not be their coach, actually. Well, actually, a lot of my coaches are on there because I like it. But it's just a real quick review, and then I send out a study sheet along with that Zoom session. And it's been really, really fun. It's kind of like this, and sometimes it turns into a bike show. They'll take us to their garage and show us their bikes. They'll hold up their cat, and it's more of a bonding than what we would get in that e-course or no course or the 5-hour thing that they're talking about with just landing on the range. And then we have no chance of developing any kind of trust back and forth with a human being. So we've been doing a Zoom. It's time consuming. I'm doing 2 Zooms tomorrow, so I'm going to laugh. But the students love it.
You know, that I like the idea of that, but as a site administrator, that adds a whole other realm of stuff, you know, to coordinate and organize and pay for and make happen, you know, so.
I agree. I'm a RAM, and we have about 600 students a year, and we have so far this year had 575. So we're right up there with what we normally have. And
right, us too.
The Zoom is a nightmare to keep track of, just getting people enrolled in it. But I think there's probably going to become a way that they can pick their date to Zoom, and it will be more of a flow than me trying to get a hold of them and, you know, talk them through it. More people are becoming familiar with this type of training. It does present that review that we were really missing. And I agree, there was a lapse there for a little while until we figured it out.
There's some holes, but there's places where you can stick that content in, the natural flow of things, you know, without it being an add-on or heavy-handed or unnatural. You know, there's places where those topics come up. You just have to identify where they are and work these bits of conversation in, so they have a memory jogging point, I guess, to go back to.
And it's been interesting to watch. I have 3 brand new coaches that have never coached in a classroom. I mean, they're brand new. They came into this and they went straight into the interim. And it's been interesting to watch their development. They were very concerned about what was going to happen, you know, and no training for it. They were asking, you know, can we shadow? And I'm like, there's nothing to shadow. We're doing it. You either do it or you don't. So it was.
So I guess if I'm understanding the question correctly, and that is you want to run a professional development for people. I don't know how many of you folks are following Dr. Ray and his VRETs, but he did an activity there a couple of VRETs ago, and it was taken after this book, Wired That Way. And it really focused on how can we take coaches who have different personality and styles and best allow them the opportunity to be successful with students who have different styles of learning. And it was a really powerful VRETs for me, because I believe that most coaches are extremely competent in the content. It really is the way we deliver the content in ways that are meaningful for every student that is really important. So to answer your question, if you were going to run a professional development, that's something I would focus on. Just an idea.
I totally agree with that, Paul. That was very well said. And I felt that that was a really meaningful VRETs also. And I think that's just a fantastic idea for professional development. Thank you.
One activity that we're going to be using for professional development in the coming months is a coaching priorities activity that I believe came from the most recent IRETs. I wasn't there, so I can't say for sure. Laura's nodding. Okay.
Hey, Nicole.
Yeah.
How do I download the latest, the video? I missed the last meeting from Harper. Did that get published via email or anything like that?
It went on to Teams.
Okay. That place that I've never been to that I don't know how to, I'll make sense of it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
So can you explain how the coaching priorities thing worked out, Nicole?
Well, we haven't done it yet, and I haven't seen it done since I wasn't at IRETs, but I understand how it works, which was that there are a certain number of exercises, range exercises listed, and 4 mistakes for each one, and you have to prioritize them based on whether they're, I'm going to forget one, whether they're path of travel type errors, procedure type errors, technique type errors, or what's the 4th one? Somebody help me out. Nobody? I can't remember the 4th one.
Sorry, I can't remember either. I was there and I still have that handout because that was a great one.
It was a good one, and I can't remember either. Stumped.
I would love to see what you do for that one.
Okay, it's just borrowed from someone else, but
There's
we can.
nobody here that's that original that we haven't
Yeah.
borrowed everything we've done from somebody else.
But
Yeah,
I can probably find a way to send you what we've got.
You know, I eat that kind of stuff up.
So I'm curious to know if people are planning or tentatively planning for conducting their PDWs in person or via Zoom, or what's the plan for people? Because that really is something that I'm thinking a lot about.
Well, our school is still going to be under similar COVID restrictions for the spring semester that we are now, which means we're not allowed to be on campus or have enough people in the same room to deal with the number of staff we have. So we're going to be doing several, we use WebEx. We're going to be doing several WebEx meetings to run updates for professional development.
Has anyone done that before? We did that for this previous season's professional development, and I gotta say it was fantastic. It went really great, and I think it's nice to just have that as a tool in the toolbox for future, whether we need to do it because of COVID or not. I think it was just really a great little bonus of a lot of bad crap.
Sure, I believe we're doing the same thing in Massachusetts this year. We're going to plan and do it virtual. We did our makeup session virtual. Our state update was right before COVID went rampant, I guess you would call it. It was, you know, early March or late February that we did our update. And then we had some people that couldn't make it. So we did our makeup through a Zoom, but it worked out really well.
Laura, we've been doing shorter professional development webinars on a weekly to bi-weekly basis, and it's been working out really well. So maybe just an hour to an hour and a half of content on a variety of topics. And we've got, it's not mandatory, those aren't, so we've probably got about up to 50% of our people showing up.
So does that count towards regular professional development then, hours, or not like that?
What do you mean?
So if, for instance, in Minnesota, we have like 8 hours of professional development required for just for state program stuff. And I'm wondering if you're doing a weekly thing, does that count towards whatever requirement you all might have, or is that just like a separate voluntary?
No, it's a separate voluntary thing because our requirement is for an annual professional development update. And that'll be held in the spring, which is a day-long thing.
Yeah, our annual is an 8-hour.
So you're basically doing like your own mini VRETs kind of thing. That's cool. And it sounds like that's going over pretty well for you.
Yeah, we've had a variety of topics from things like have been discussed in tribe talks and some other things that we've come up with just based on what we've seen in the program through QA visits and so forth.
I love that idea. That's just totally awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna definitely grind on that a little bit, I think.
Hey, Nicole, you guys have been having, what, about 50 to 75 rider coaches each time? Something like that?
Yeah, I think our max early on was we cracked the 80s.
Who's conducting those?
Harper College, the northern region of Illinois.
But like, who's the facilitator?
All
one person?
The program coordinator, and then Sarah Baranek-Nagala and I, who are the 2 assistant coordinators, we work together to come up with the content and deliver it. And we've had occasional guest speakers like Jason.
Nicole, isn't that similar to what, and Chris, you might be able to come up with, agree with that one, but what happens down in the southern part of Illinois, like with Levi and I'm drawing a blank now, the other guy's name.
Yeah, Jared and Levi.
Yeah, Jared
it's
and
the same
Levi.
for- They have to do the all-day, 8-hour PDW annual update.
Yeah, that's just like what we have to do in Missouri side as well. The PDW that comes out in the spring, like March or April or February. I don't remember when. But somebody had said, I thought that depending on the location and or the state, if you attended some of those VRETs, even though what are they, an hour long or hour and a half, that they would count. But then again, you know, that's more hearsay than anything. I haven't heard anything official on that.
I got my 3-wheel training this year. Isn't that my professional development? That's all good and done now.
I think that would count towards the PDW if you get 3-wheel certified. Just like when I went to a month ago, I went and got certified in teaching an art class, and that was 2 days, 3 days, I think. So I would think that would count as PDW, but I'm not 100% sure.
And then we pan to Chris Rector.
Nice try, Robin, but the only thing that counts in Illinois is the annual update.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, so I just got to sit and listen.
Yeah, is that where you're at, Robin, in Illinois?
Only if I have to be.
Okay.
Not only that, Robin, you have to be quiet. You think you can do that?
Oh.
Well, thank you, Rita. Thank you very much. That was
Robin,
a nice thing you said with your face at me.
Robin, you up there near Rita?
No, I've gotten as far from her as I possibly can.
Dennis, remember how horrible it was to have to do 3-wheel cert with me around? Robin,
it was really rough. Truly
and he
rough.
didn't have Michael Davis for a buffer either.
Well, when I got my 3-wheel cert, Mike Davis came down and did it for us here in St. Louis area.
Yeah, but remember you had to put up with me too.
Well, I try to forget things like that sometimes, Rita. No, seriously, it was a good class. So that was fun.
Well, Maggie and I both agree that we miss us some Rita down here for sure. I'm down in Texas now. Made it all the way.
Oh, down in Texas now, huh?
Yeah, Kerrville. I'm going to Austin for the next 10 days though, because I got coach 2 back-to-backs. I'm really, you know what? I don't want to coach. I don't want to coach this weekend. Don't want to coach this weekend. Don't want to coach next weekend. I'm in a different mode, but I'm going to shift it out and get it done.
Well, I've taught with media coaches on both Missouri side and Illinois side, and 99% of them are all good coaches. Everybody knows you have those that you wish they could do something a little better or a little differently. But
here, hold on. I'm getting bombarded here. Okay, let's see here. I've got a stack. Oh, okay. Kelly Howard. My buddy Mike Dunn lands next Sunday, the Sunday after this week, and then he's staying until Thursday. So that'd be a good time to go riding. Ted Jenkins, you would have had to have done a good job. I don't know what that means. I don't know. Ted's being mean to me.
Somebody picking on you there?
That means in order for your 3-wheel cert to count, you had to have done a good job.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. You're certified in Wisconsin if you took the class in Wisconsin.
So what do you think, Don? Are you getting the answers you were hoping for?
Thanks, everyone.
Kind of drifted a little bit, haven't we?
Okay. Sorry, man. I'm on OJ and rum at this point, so.
OJ and what?
Rum and OJ. Okay. I don't have enough mixers.
I got a beer I'm almost finished with.
Cheers, all. It's transparent. It's Goldwing beer.
This is actually good Goldwing beer, as in the Lou Bud Select.
So Don, you were talking about or kind of pimping us for ideas for a professional development activity for a meeting that is to start tomorrow.
I am pimping you.
So my only best idea at the moment is something they, if I remember correctly, got shoved into in a Dale Carnegie class 20 years ago. And that was, we were all given 15 minutes to figure out what topic we were going to present to the rest of the class as a new skill, something that you could reasonably think that nobody else had ever done before, that was supposed to be relatively simplistic, but to be able to teach a new skill. Putting the stress on the instructor, of course, for doing it, and then the objective of getting some of the people to do something. And we had people literally demonstrating knot tying, very specific knot tying. One lady got up and showed the class how to hula dance. Most of us were rather poor at it, but it was fun trying, and other things.
Video or didn't happen.
20 years ago, we did not have camera phones. Thank goodness.
We would settle for a dramatic reenactment right now.
Interpretive dance will not happen. I haven't had the whiskey yet.
Speaking of which, I think I owe you a bottle of what is it called down here?
Don't show up. If you can't bring a bottle bigger than Rita, don't even come.
It's quality, quantity. What is it? Shoot. I just had this.
About a 1.75 liter. Is that what we're talking?
Garrison's whiskey. You ever had it?
I
No.
only brought that much because I knew I was going to drink most of it.
Well, I've had 3 of them at my house since you were here. It's only been, well, the Christmas party will be scheduled for December if nobody else has COVID. We'll have another one.
There you go, man. Do a whiskey tasting.
No, that sounds too Lee Parks for me. Can't do it.
So based off of some of the feedback I've received from other people and then some of the discussion tonight, I like the fact that we're discussing, the interim curriculum and how to expand it to ensure that we get back all the things that we aren't doing because we're in the interim curriculum. My question then becomes, have we become more complacent, or do we feel the interim curriculum is good enough?
Our curriculum gets the job done.
It really does.
But there's places for us to provide a richer learning experience for the students by fleshing out some of the conversations that are gone. The discussions about, all of the scenario slides give opportunities to talk about cornering, for example, and all the aspects of cornering. And do we do that on the range and in debriefs and pre-briefs and instructions? Yeah, they kind of get that. But it's a chance to reinforce and enhance and make it more meaningful. If we build in a little bit of extra conversation, just in the normal course of things. I find while students are riding the circuit, that second coach on the side hanging out with the students that are watching is a great place to fill in some gaps and remind students of things, and just kind of hark back to the e-course and bring out some of that terminology that they might not remember and remind them of the protocols of cornering and things we're watching for. And it's just a chance to kind of bring in that extra stuff.
Right.
Having those scenarios, I think, really drives home how is this directly related to my experience, my future experience on the road, in a way that some of the interim activities don't quite have. I think a good facilitator will try to make that point to the students about how it relates. But for people who are visual learners, I think seeing those scenarios can have a strong impact.
One of the things that, because I've done it a number of times, you kind of get a flow. After the crash scenarios, and they had them read that last statement, and the last statement is talking about having a good risk management. And then right from there, I go into the C, okay, to the class. What is the risk management you talked that was discussed or presented during the E course? And you draw out C, and now I get into the C strategy. The eyes, the mind, the body. But then that's where I can bring up the 4 search categories. I'll stress that, and then stress the escape paths, and then I found that to be a good segue into the cube, where now you're bringing up the perception. Does the eyes tell the brain what to see, or does the brain tell the eyes what to look for? So,
You know, I find there's so many places when we're out on the range to bring out the conversations we had in the classroom, the interim constructor crash activity, because the students bring up these topics and they all have relevance. So we can say, oh, hey, someone brought that up in the classroom when we talked about constructing a crash, and kind of work some of that stuff into there. I find that works out really well. And I've been asking the students after the circuit activities to reflect on, you know, the mistakes that maybe happened during this exercise while we were progressing through it. What would those mistakes have looked like out on the street? And you know, how does that affect your thought process about approaching curves on the street and you know, the outcomes? Because here we have like a nice controlled environment. Out on the street, you know, we don't have the gimmies, we don't have the extra space, we don't have the no curbs, we don't have, you know, the controlled environment. This is really important stuff.
That's great, Lynn. That's something I always try to tie in as well. And it kind of really reinforces that self-assessment. And you have multiple opportunities to do that on the range, on the reflective part.
I really like what you just said, Lynn. It's not just in necessarily exercise 8 demonstration where you bring out, you know, if this was an intersection, where would you be? Being able to tie that into various points of the exercises. I'm going to be using that.
Exercise 8 also, so many places where you can thread that into, you know, the debriefs and the conversations relative. But, you know, once they have that under their belt, it's a really great reference point, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, even perimeter turns, you know, if somebody's really going wide or just thinking, well, geez, this is just a really tight turn here. Well, what about taking a right turn out of the parking lot of where we are? You know, if you go really wide, where would you end up?
Everybody be quiet, please. Everybody, please calm down. Please. Everybody, need everybody to calm down.
I'm interested to see what the new curriculum or the changes in the new curriculum brings us, because one of the things that I currently have fallen into your groove is utilizing my range space, where if we have a group in the classroom, we can have a group on the range, flip-flop places, and make our 16 hours work so that you can get the most time out of the range, which helps me in paying rent as far as making the world go round. And I'm guessing for a lot of businesses, it's the same way. And I know some coaches don't have to worry about stacked classes, and they feel a sense of relief that they can kind of relax, and it doesn't have to be quite so stringent. But I was started in an area where you have 6 hours, get the job done. And now if we go to a 5-hour e-course, I assume that, and this is me making assumptions, I assume that the range will still include activities and be more like the art class is now, or how ERC Suite was presented before, where we're still going to utilize that time, that window that we were given, but now it might take place across maybe 6-7 hours a day, potentially for range space. It doesn't mean you can't do it somewhere else, but if that's how it's done, and I'm interested how that's going to fit with the model that I've unfortunately, you know, gone totally accustomed to with rental of space and making things work. I love the interim curriculum, and I thought, hey, this will be great that we don't necessarily have to have a formal classroom in the realm of brick and mortar building to be inside. It allowed us the time to be outside and getting that job done, which worked really good in the interim. But going forward, if students come in with assumedly a 5-hour worth of e-course done, we'll still probably have those activities to do, whether it be coloring on people's thumbs or doing something else, because I don't think that's going to get left out. Or if I got to be the guy to design it, it wouldn't get left out. It would just have another place to be done. So
I have the same concerns, and this year with the interim and COVID and making up for being shut for 3 months, you know, we stacked some classes, which I haven't done before at our sites, and everyone was nervous about it. And it worked out well. We actually, even being closed for 3 months, we actually met our numbers from last year, which is really, you know, hats off to my coaches who really stepped up and met an aggressive schedule. But if we add a little time in to do the activities, you know, I'm wondering what that schedule is going to look like and how I'm going to manage that. I've got the same concerns.
How many of you have something in laws in your state that require a certain number of hours for a basic rider course? And if you have that, what are the number of hours?
I'm pretty sure ours is 15 hours, including the e-course. But I think, you know, that's something that they're willing to adjust with. I mean, they're happy to let the curriculum decisions go with MSF. So, you know.
I'm sorry, reading in Missouri, from my knowledge, they require, I think it's 15 or 16 hours. Whereas in Illinois, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that's 20 hours in Illinois. But then in Missouri, we don't use the e-course. We're level, I think it's what's called level 1, if I remember right.
So, I mean, I'm not an expert on this. I just know what I've heard. And even with the E5, the range will increase by at least 1 hour. So it will be the E5 11. But the sweet spot is kind of lost because it's still the E3 5 10, where you actually have time to get to know the students doing level 2 classroom activities before or during the time on the range. And I think this gets back a lot to what Lisa was talking about when she was talking about doing the 2-hour Zoom review. That gives the coaches and the students an opportunity and time to make those connections that are needed to kind of get to know each other, establish that epistemic trust. Got that one in again. And
do you actually say that to the students?
What, epistemic trust? No.
Yes. Okay.
But I'll say it to you because you should know what it is.
What about epidermal trust?
No.
Is that a thing?
You have to ask before.
That must be awkward. That's probably awkward.
Yes, for epidermal trust.
You start your classroom with putting a rubber glove on. I'm going to stop talking now. There's now rum in my system.
Yeah, I can tell. But I think, you know, going to an E5 11, you have a lot of work to do up front as you're going to the range and trying to do all these other activities that will be integrated. For the minimalistic coach, I think that's a good term to use, it may be more difficult, and I wonder what kind of outcomes we'll get from that. I like the fact that, you know, consistently Dr. Ray has said that E3 5 10 is a sweet spot, because it really is. It kind of gets everything you need. And if you notice, the conversations tonight wasn't about motor skill development. It was about judgment. It was about how do you take their previous experiences, put it in a situation or an activity that students can use to have that realistic view of how safety needs to be at the top of their mind when they're out riding a motorcycle. Because motor skill development really is the easiest of the things we do. Changing behaviors and getting that safety in the top mind, that's where it resides. And if we're relying on an e-course to do that, I think we're missing something. But that's just Don's thought. What are yours?
I do think that some of the consistent delivery for some of our long-winded instructors to have most of the class done by e-course would be better for students, because we have a lot of folks that still want to drift and talk and tell war stories, which is completely meaningless. It's not a learning thing. It's a look at me thing. For those folks, I think more e-course would be better because we have a consistent level of delivery.
Is there another way we could get more consistent delivery?
Well, then you go up against ego.
Some of those folks, I don't think we can.
Yeah, well, what Ted said. You start pushing up against their well, you know, that speaks volumes. Those 3 words. You know, my experience, I like the curriculum, but I gotta, you know, inject this blah blah blah. I'm with Ted on that. Like,
I think that, you know, I'm kind of in between here, you know, because as a site administrator, the idea of having no classroom is, woo, great, you know, but I think that the classroom is a place for us to get the attention of the students and really get some meaningful dialogue happening about risk management and their thought process and their attitudes. And as a coach, I think not having the classroom, it would be less fun for me as a coach, because I think the classroom is enjoyable. I like the input and the back and forth with the students and all those aspects of it. So I'm on the fence. I'm curious to see what an expanded e-course would look like. But I think that the human element goes a long way towards affecting people's attitudes. I think people are more likely to be influenced by another person discussing an attitude adjustment with them more so than a computer course discussing an attitude adjustment with them.
The level 2 e-course looks like what you would expect. It looks like basically interactive computer slideshow of the slideshow.
wait. Holy crap-tastic. So we're actually, are we about to face another, is the pandemic beginning to have influence on a prospective curriculum update that's going to change how the e-course system is? No, nothing like that. Okay.
No, this was actually out before.
Okay. Thank you both. I mean, I was about to ask when Jason was talking about how often do we typically start to point our targets at a new curriculum or a curriculum shift. And, you know, also to go back to your question about like whether or not I feel like the e-course is effective. I mean, I feel like if the coach is the kind of person who's able to draw in the attention of the students towards the remaining information and also make use of the stuff from the e-course while they're coaching, hey, everybody remember this, everybody remember that, then for me it's just more efficient. But not every coach can play on that field, you know?
I think the e-course is effective, but it depends on what the mission of your business, your site, and more importantly, your state is. I am convinced that from a legislative standpoint, it's pretty easy to legislate mandatory training and to be able to have that skills test, and for some, the knowledge test at the end, and it's black and white, you passed or you didn't. But training and education are 2 very different things. And if you want to be the school that is offering an education, or an educational opportunity, that's fantastic. The problem or the challenge for some is is there a difference in what it takes to offer that financially? Who's going to pay for that? And what kind of customer? And I'm sure we've all gotten that customer that comes to us. What's the easiest way to do this? What's the cheapest way I can get to my end result, which is whatever theirs wants to be? And I have a fair amount of customers now that have been doing this for a while on my own that are legitimately looking for an education, and they do care, but they don't care what it costs. They're like, no, I really want to learn how to do this well, which is really cool. Those are the people that I want to work with. But some people just want the license. Why'd you come to me? Getting a test at the DMV was a pain in the ass. So I came to you.
Yeah, we got into that a little bit last time about how, like, some students, it's like, how do you reach them in a way where they're going to take interest in things they might not have otherwise taken interest in? You know, how to, like, convince them to, oh, wait, this is actually kind of cool, when really they're just like, who can I bribe to get them to duct tape the license to my forehead? You know, and it was, you know, that, I forget what the terms were. People were throwing big words, $10 words over my head about, like, coaching capability. And I was like, I'm the small man in this, but
well, you know, and here in New York, you know, real estate is at a premium, and I live upstate, so it's not so bad, but I came from downstate, and, you know, the expense of having a range and a classroom in the New York metro area is crazy. So I could see how sites would be happy to not have to fork out to have a classroom if it weren't necessary. I'm less affected by that upstate. We also have pricing restrictions made on us. You know, there's only so much money that we can charge for a course. Even if someone wants to pay extra for that extra experience, we can't charge extra. So, you know, there's a, you know, for example, the extended BRC, we can't do that effectively from a cost standpoint because we can't charge more for that extended experience. So it's difficult.
So going back to maybe something Robin said,
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was last week that we talked about this or if it was something I read or heard recently. That you always get those people that are there because they have to do it. There's some requirement to be met. Many of them who have been riding all their lives and know everything about riding. And you say, well, great, maybe, you know, I'll learn something from you in the class. And by the time you get to the end of the class, they hands down will always say, hey, I'm really glad I showed up. I learned something and I'm a better rider for the, you know, 10 hours or 8 hours I just spent riding a bike with you. If that is an overwhelming majority of the people that come through, the value for getting more people that feel that way in is certainly there, whether it's regulated by code or, you know, whatever laws need to get them there. But also, and I think this goes back to a discussion maybe we had with Duncan last week, having those graduated licensing or tiered licensing so that you have to come back for more training after a certain period of time, or when you get a larger motorcycle, makes a whole lot of sense to me the more we talk about it. What are your thoughts on that?
I like to acknowledge, you know, students come into the class, a lot of them have experience. Sometimes it was, I used to ride on the dirt, or I currently ride on the dirt, or I rode when I was a kid, you know, and I always try to acknowledge whatever their background is. If they have some riding experience, I say, oh, that experience is probably going to serve you well, because you know that, you know, the controls are the same, whether you rode in the dirt and rode in the street. Say sometimes when people transition from the dirt to the street, we need to kind of add a little bit of finesse, because that heavy-handed approach on the dirt, that's part of the fun of riding in the dirt. You know, you give a big old handful of throttle and you roost your buddies and spin out in the dirt. That's all part of the dirt experience. But when you do that on the street, you go. So I kind of try to make a joke out of it and but acknowledge their their background and say that you might need to make some adjustments and kind of open the path for that to happen for them. And also to enlist their assistance, you know, the guys that have been riding and are used to riding. Sometimes, you know, I had a young guy in the class this week, you know, he always wanted to like give maximum throttle everywhere he went. And I said, you know, when you do that, I know you're capable of doing that, but it's more than we need. And when you do that and make all that noise, it makes it a scary experience for the people that are just starting out. Could you help me out by toning it down a little bit and showing them how easy it is? And that seemed to.
Yeah, I know my spin or what I do with somebody that has some experience or they have a dirt bike background is basically saying, you know, use this as an opportunity to see how smooth you really do everything. You may, you know, have been riding for years or you may do a lot of things, but how smooth are you really with your throttle? How smooth are you really with the clutch? So we might be in the very beginning, and with the curriculum based around a lot of novices, you know, you could have 30 years experience and still gain a lot from it, because if you really think about how smooth am I really doing everything. So we're doing something really basic in the beginning, or that you might think is basic, but it gives you an opportunity to really analyze and break down your riding and everything you do and kind of build it back up. And it usually seems pretty successful. They really, you know, buy into it.
Yeah, when has a passenger ever been impressed with a not smooth ride?
I got a story for you there.
Like Josh was saying, I'll do something very similar, especially with the young. It tends to be younger guys who have been riding dirt bikes forever. I'll say, you know, I know you can operate the motorcycle. You know you can operate the motorcycle. See if you can ride that demo better than I rode it. See how smooth you can be. See how good an example to the rest of the class you be, and put that challenge on them. And they will often strive to ride the perfect demo, quote unquote. And that calms them down, and they're smooth, and they're a good example, and it works great.
I know my favorite thing to say to someone that comes in that has experience, I love breaking bad habits. I love that you're here to learn to break those bad habits. And, you know, that kind of gets them going. What do you mean? And I said, oh, there's plenty of times where especially my lady riders will tell their husbands, man, Belinda said, don't do it that way. Right. And so it kind of breaks it up to, I love that you're here to actually learn to ride safely. I look forward to learning from you, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, when I say it that way, when I have these guys that ride through, if I'm at one of the dealerships and they're like, oh, I've been riding, I need to go get my license. I'm like, come on, I love breaking bad habits. Come play with me. Come hang out with me. I love it. And that gets them thinking about it too. So that's always a fun way to kind of get them comfortable with, instead of coming in going, well, I know all my shit, you can't tell me nothing, right? And you'll be like, oh, I love breaking that.
Yeah, and I think that's good for people who have never ridden before as well, because, you know, you can tell them this is fantastic because you're a clean slate. You don't have bad habits you have to overcome. You can develop good habits right from the start. And I think it helps them feel a little bit better about not having any experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't have to unlearn bad habits like a, you know, I lost my train of thought now. Thanks, Rita. No, that was good. That was good.
Like hitting deer.
That's the other thing. I always say I'm still trying to be smoother. I still have a lot of room to grow, and I'm still don't consider myself being good enough yet. You know, I'm still learning and practicing every time I'm out there, and I'm still taking classes, and I'm still assessing myself and my weaknesses.
I can ride great demos. I don't need any more training.
No, I kind of, what Matt and Josh mentioned about challenging them, you know, like when they like to, on the offset weaves, you know, those dirt bike riders, they'll zip through that real quick. I say, All right, see if you can do it really, really slow, you know, and you see them struggle at first till they get a feel for it, but they definitely are learning, you know. I had a fella years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago. It was I was teaching by myself with 6 people, and it was a neighbor, it was the family members, and then a neighbor. Their neighbor was 81 years old and had been riding since the 40s and never had a license. And all he kept saying to me this was before he updated, in the classroom first, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And all through the class, all he kept saying was, I didn't know that. Just because of the little fine techniques we're able to give them. Yeah, he was able to do the exercises, but he was able to refine it. But that was pretty neat. Throw that out there.
If you want to show your humility too, like every 3 slides, just say, me neither. I had no idea.
You know, the students sometimes, especially if it's raining, they're concerned about leaning. I'm worried about leaning too far. And you know, we talk about if you're too fast in a turn, well, you know, keep looking and keep pressing. And I say, I know you're all worried about leaning, but you know, you're not used to leaning at all. If you watch each other ride, look at how far your other students, you know, their foot pegs aren't anywhere near touching the pavement. There's still more room to lean. I said, and I realize it's all relative. I said, you know, when I've had a chance to go on the track, I'm going faster than I'm used to going. And I'm like, whoa, I'm really leaning. And then you look at the pictures and I'm like, no, not so much. You know, so I kind of let them know that, you know, even on this level, we have that same experience of, holy crap, I'm really leaning, but yeah, no. So
I find that I get on the track and go, holy cow, I'm really going fast. And then somebody passes me on the outside looking very casual.
On my first track day on my leader bike, thinking I'm, you know, really cool and doing really well. And then somebody passes me on a Ninja 250 and waves.
Yep, that exactly.
So
Boy,
oh, sorry. I was gonna say
you can go ahead, Belinda.
thank you. Lynn, I was gonna say about trusting the motorcycle. I was like, tell them, they're like, but it's gonna fall over. I'm like, no, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust. This is what a motorcycle is designed to do. And I think people forget that. I'm like, look, that's 4 wheels. These are 2. This is the fun part. And getting them to kind of relax and understand that that's what the motorcycle is designed to do, is to have fun. I'm like, you have so much more fun. And if you'll just trust the bike itself. And I think having that good trust of that's what it's there to do for you, it really helps. And then I actually used your thing of, I love, you said that when we talked about why you ride, you said, I love that I can tell it to go this way and it does this, and it goes that way. I can tell it to do this and it does this. And I actually use that. So I want to thank you for that, because I used it in my class, my last one, because that's what the thing was, well, it wants to fall down. Well, your job is to make it not fall down, right? With the counterweighting, because you tell it what to do. And so I did want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome. You know, I find in exercise 3, sometimes students, they try to do too much all at once, you know, and they're, you know, their hands are on the brake before their clutch is even out all the way. They're thinking about stopping before they thought about going. And I said, listen, you're trying to do too much at once. Break it down into steps. I want you to start out. I want you to enjoy the ride. And finally, I want you to stop. Right now, you're leaving out the enjoy the ride part. You're going right from starting out, stopping. Relax and enjoy the ride. Yeah, there you go.
Is that on the cards, Lynn?
It is not.
That's what pencils are for, right? No, I did have a student actually this weekend that was talking about that, afraid of leaning or the motorcycle falling over. So we just turned it into and they brought it up during a debrief, which was with the group. So it started out a real good group dialogue of, okay, so what are some things that would cause the motorcycle to fall? And we kind of, you know, went through and they were getting basically more comfortable, because they were talking about, well, yeah, if I really grabbed a handful of brake, that'd probably make it fall. Or if I abruptly slowed it, and it kind of, I think, set the student at ease, and there was good progression afterwards, and that student was successful, did very well.
I had a student in our class this past weekend. She had gotten counseled out of a class 2 weeks prior. She could not pick up her feet in exercise 2. She just wasn't having any of the picking up my feet stuff going on. And I wasn't there for that class. And I spoke to her in the interim, and she really wants to ride a motorcycle. Her whole family rides. It's a big, family event for them. And I asked her when was the last time she rode a bicycle, and the answer was forever ago. And she was not an older woman. She was probably in her, I would say probably mid-20s. And I said, you need to go ride a bicycle just to get comfortable being on 2 wheels and feeling what that's all about. And as it happens, her dad has a trike. So she was able to get in some throttle and clutch practice on the trike without worrying about 2 wheels. And she was able to ride a bicycle in the interim. And she came back and she actually finished the class, and she squeaked by with a pass. She was just on the edge of failing, but she managed to get by. And she still doesn't 100% trust the balance. She 80% of the time she trusts it. And then she has these moments where she doesn't trust it. And so, she's made progress. She knows where her weak areas are, and that she's still got more practice ahead of her, even though she passed the class. But it was really interesting to watch the progression. And now she's struggled with stuff, and intellectually she knew what to do, but her own internal sense of balance is telling her, fix it, fix it, fix it. And how she had to work with that.
Since you brought this up again, and we talked about it last week, this is a great segue into the Rets.org posts that we're talking about when to pick up your feet and why. And that was the due out from last week to this week.
Oh, goodness.
So does anybody remember that discussion?
Yeah, I don't remember what the purpose was. I came up with an answer, but it gives me a headache.
Well, have another drink there, Robin. Maybe that'll bring it back.
What are you trying to say, man? Must learn.
I may have to get a beer. I'm not sure.
So the question was, when do you pick your feet up and why? So my answer is maybe this is it's not a lack of caring. It's that my head hurts thinking about it. We pick our feet up when we have enough momentum. Why? Because we want to ride the bike.
Robin, in that respect, it's true, because with like in part 2 of exercise 2, when you're going back and forth, when you're power walking down, one things I suggest some of the students do after they've done it, going back and forth 2 or 3 times and walking it kind of slow, I tell them to walk it, ask them to walk it just a little bit faster. Not go ballistic with it, and see how that works. Then we get to part 3 of that exercise, I say, they start out, and I say, remember what we did the last part. Just start off power walking a few steps like we briefed it. Get your feet up on the pegs and increase the throttle just a little bit more to stabilize the bike a little. 9 times out of 10, that works. They're happy. There is a few times there's some students that are still a little scared of that idea. Can they really ride with 2 feet on the peg, with both feet on the pegs?
So Robin,
hold on. Sorry, Rita, go ahead. Read it first.
they should put their feet on the pegs when they have enough momentum. By when should they have enough momentum?
Well, that's subjective by each individual student. They got to decide when they feel they have enough momentum. At least I think that's the case.
Once the rockets get firing.
By when should they have developed enough momentum? At what point in an exercise or in the curriculum should they have developed enough momentum to put their feet on the pegs?
Okay.
Exercise 2, part 3.
Yeah. I've got a war story.
Uh-oh.
So this is a new one. So I got I guess technically this went out to me, but I got my first Robin spelled with a Y, bad review survey sent out by the people I'm coaching for. Kelly, you'll love this. So we get this student. I'm supposed to be coaching 2 on 16. I'm supposed to be running doubles with a friend. He's like, come on, man, we'll run doubles. I'll split the pay with you. So 2 on 8, 2 on 8, back to backs, right? Running doubles. Okay, cool. It ends up being one class of 4. So you got two coaches, 2 students. I mean, I stuck around for it though, just to whatever. 3 male, 1 female. 3 male students doing pretty good. Female's the only one who's never ridden, and she it was very smiley, very reserved in her comments. You know, do you have any questions? Very closed off. Hey, good job. Smile. Yes. You know. So then I brought up, well, balance was a clear issue all through exercise 1, 2, 3, up to 4. Maybe we should cancel it out by 4, but there were 2 coaches, 4 students. Let's see if we can do a little bit of repeat information, get her through this. And I said, okay, well, remember, to the friction zone. I'm trying to stick to the book. To the friction zone, not through it. If it stalls slow, maybe give it a little bit more gas. If it stalls quickly, maybe release the clutch more slowly. Didn't go anywhere. And I think it was, what's the offset weave? I never memorized the exercises. So the offset weave starts in exercise. What's the first skill practice? Is that 5? 5, cool. So 5, where this student was, it was power walking down the middle of the offset weave and kind of putting their foot on the cone as they passed by. And that's when we kind of gave the shake of the head and said, okay, it's done. And I didn't counsel that student out. The other coach did, but then we received the review, or not the online review. We received the survey back, and the survey back said, it said, what was your experience? Bad. Everything was one word, bad, bad. Comments, none. No comments, no interaction, no discussion, no what could we do to help to make it better, just bad. We did. I was with a very good coach, and it went the way it did. So I forget why I tied this to what you're saying. So somebody else reel this back into what we're talking about. But momentum, momentum, and a student who clearly is not going to get it. Somebody talk. Pick that back up. That's where I'm at with that student. That's how it went.
Thanks for taking us on to your war story there, Robin. We really appreciate it.
Hey, I'll be here all night.
You happened to mention one word in all of that really kind of gets to the answer of this, I think. But I'm going to throw it back out to everybody else. There was a great comment, placing feet on the footrests when able. When should they be able?
So I found in the part 2 of exercise 2 is just as they're going across back and forth, having them try to walk a little faster, more of a gliding of their feet versus little steps. And I found that it's basically when you're able, I kind of get to the point where you feel comfortable. But it's that part 2 where you're getting their speed up so that they do have that momentum where they almost naturally bring their feet up themselves.
When they have balance, that is when they can put their feet on the footrest. And the reason they put their feet on the footrest is because it's uncomfortable to ride with your feet dragging down. And it's unsafe. And so take a couple of steps, get your balance, take your feet up. 1, 2, feet up. And if it doesn't work the first time, do it the second time. Do it the second and third time. And that's when they're balanced, they can put their feet up, and they put their feet up because it's super uncomfortable to ride a motorcycle by dragging your toes.
I don't know if this is what you're looking for, Don, but one of the reasons I thought of that we hadn't mentioned so far was to have your feet near the controls, because there are some there that you might like to use.
Okay, that is definitely a plus side, because if you're not with your feet on the pegs and you have to stop, what brake are you going to use, and are you balanced with your feet not on the pegs?
students, sometimes students mistakenly in part 2, power walking, will skim their feet along the ground. And if they're skimming their feet, they are balancing or trying to balance. And sometimes I have to walk them back and say, don't skim your feet, take steps. All right, we're going to get to the balance part of this in part 3. Right now, we're working on throttle and clutch control. And if they're trying to add balance into the mix too soon, they sometimes lose some of that, and they sometimes end up, wandering around going weird places because they're trying to balance before they have the speed to do that.
Well, listen, I see this comment about EX1. Isn't EX1 even alone? Or I'm sorry, not EX1. Well, yeah, they did reuse EX1. Wow. Well, even part 1 of EX2, I mean, they are balancing on the bike in, stationary fashion. Part 2, they start to try to balance as they power walk across. How do we, we're not really supposed to try to tell them the science of the reason we're having you do this is that you're trying to balance at this point already. You don't even know it. But even as I see them power walk across, I see floating. I see feet floating as the bike moves. That should be enough to give them the confidence to put their feet in position. I'm calling momentum. That's my keyword's momentum. Yeah, I saw that. Mike. I saw that.
I missed it. What's going on?
We got the chat up, and he says, I have students try to get their feet up in EX1. I'm sure you all have as well.
So I got a toy here. Let's see if I can make this make sense. And I'm sorry it's a chopper, but that's was within reach.
Is that what you write down?
If we're talking balance, looking at the front of the motorcycle, the center of gravity of the motorcycle is somewhere around here where the engine is as you look back. And the center of gravity of the person is a little bit higher, not all the way up to the seat, but pretty close. When you have your feet on the pegs, that's when that center of gravity is up here, and it allows you to control and manage the motorcycle better. But if you don't have your feet on the pegs, say you don't have your feet on the pegs, you don't have them skimming across the ground, and you're just kind of in between the ground and the peg, what happens is the motorcyclist center of gravity moves up to the fulcrum where your butt is on the motorcycle. So there's a larger gap between the natural center of gravity of the motorcycle and the natural center of gravity of your butt on the seat. And so because your gravity is at or above the seat center of gravity and you're balancing with your hands, what's happening is there's a fulcrum that's wavering back and forth. As soon as you place your feet on the pegs, your center of gravity comes down about to where the engine is again. And instead of wavering, or I think the appropriate term is oscillating because you're trying to balance, it steadies out. And so the whole reason to put your feet up on the pegs, besides being able to use the controls, is that you're centering the center of gravity on the body and the bike to a place where it's not acting like a seesaw and causing the motorcycle to oscillate, therefore making it stable and providing better control. Does that make sense?
Just read the cards, man.
What?
Just read the cards, man.
RTFC, man.
Well, the whole reason I got on this kick was Ret Sword. These guys have been going around for 3 weeks on why it's okay to leave your feet out as outriggers versus put them on the pegs. And I think control is the big thing. You have your feet on the pegs because you get better balance that way. And when you do come to a stop, instead of having outriggers and the oscillation from the handlebars that may, as you grab a brake, cause you to inappropriately stop and crash, it's more stable. So, I mean, there's probably 4 different reasons why you should put your feet up on the pegs when you're able.
Well, and that also incorporates the putting the feet down. If you put them down too soon, you also make yourself unstable, you know, as you're coming to stop and losing stability anyway. So kind of in keeping with that.
How many of you been to a motorcycle rally and you see people duck walking and kind of up, kind of down, but never really controlling the motorcycle?
I do not attend those rallies.
You know, I tell the students, there we go. I tell the students, if you stop properly, your bike will be perfectly balanced. You'll go shoom, and it will be stopped, and you'll say, oh yeah, I have to put my foot down. It's not the, holy crap, I have to put my foot down. You're balanced and you're placing your foot on the ground.
Here's maybe a better picture. Did that come up?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who rides a corner, like, well, I mean, I guess that makes sense if you're going in a straight line. I'm upset if that's a banked corner. I'm pissed.
I don't know. I just got
Robin. Obviously, it's an off camber.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wait. Banked, 1 syllable, off camber. Okay, electroencephalogram. I'm going to fill everything with the word electroencephalogram. That's 8. Victory. No, I hear you. I get what you're saying. Good point. Well placed.
I completely had a thought and now it's gone. So I'm feeling like Dennis all of a sudden.
That happens to me all the time.
So Dawn, you talk about the center of gravity. Something that I find that I've seen multiple times, which is funny to me, is so I'm like watching this person and they're like, why can't I balance? And I'm watching them and I'm thinking, they look like they're trying, what is going on? And it's not until I see them from like behind on exercise 3 when they're going the other way that I notice their butt cheek, like they're sitting on one butt cheek and it's like their butt is shifted, and I'll just say, hey, shift the behind and your bike will do better. And it's so funny when they realize that, because their bodies are automatically trying to balance, and so they get that butt cheek up in the air, and I'm like, shift your bottom and sit up straight. And that's when I'm like, stand up, now sit down and stay right there. And then they'll realize, oh, because their bodies are trying automatically to do that whole balance thing. So I find it's funny, especially when you have someone that has a much larger center of gravity behind that's trying to balance.
Have any of you used video or pictures to help explain things like that to the students to help them better understand what's going on?
I actually have, but not in a normal BRC. It was well beyond a BRC. I believe it was, I've done it in an ERC and an ARC as a last resort to explain to somebody why something was happening.
That would almost seem like that would almost confuse people if you tried to show them a video, because I've had that question asked to me before about how far can you lean the motorcycle going around the corner. And I say, well, you could lean it as far as you feel safely, but you also need to remember that the tires on a motorcycle have tread on the side. So you're not going to automatically slip out of there when you're going around that curve.
I've also used it for advanced rider course, but for a certification course, when a rider coach is telling me I'm leaning so far off the bike, I might as well be dragging my knee. And when I'm watching what they're basically trying to say is their demo for a particular exercise for body shift, And I'm visually seeing nothing, knowing that their students are going to see no body shift whatsoever. And when I took a video of this rider coach and said, okay, I understand it feels like you're leaning off the motorcycle, but here's what your students are going to see. The light bulb went on completely. And he said, oh, okay, now I understand. You're trying to get, here's what it looks like to you, and here's what it feels like to me. And now I get it. The students have to see something regardless of what it feels like.
Well, does anybody have any tips? Because we've all got those occasional students who won't sit still. You know, they're constantly trying to correct. You know, there's something with their own internal sense of balance. I call it the wiggle chip. And you know, they're always trying to make a correction. And I've got a friend like this. If she gets in a canoe, God forbid a wave comes and the canoe goes like this, you know, she wants to try to fix it, make it stay straight. And I have students who want to do the same thing. They have to constantly adjust. And that's hard to turn off. You know, I tell them you don't need to do that. The bike can balance by itself and you can kind of verbalize it, but they kind of have to experience it and develop that own trust on themselves. Does anybody have any tips for that?
I know a couple of things I do is, you know, really trying to get them to squeeze the tank with the knees to try to keep them from fidgeting. But then if the arms are doing a lot of steering, I'll do the chicken dance. So I say, hey, if I'm doing the chicken dance, I'm just trying to get you to really relax your arms, and the bike will kind of balance itself, but you got to, you know, relax those arms a little bit, or I'll use something as a focal point as they're riding towards me.
Yeah, if you look at it,
a couple of my tricks anyway.
If you look at it ground up, you know, they start taking their knees off the tank. I mean, I've gotten in trouble for it before. It was like, you know, stop, you're rocking Elvis there. You're starting to stick your knees out in a slow speed maneuver. That does nothing for you at all. So if you keep your knees on the tank, and then think about, what if I were typing an email? You're sitting on a stool, you're centering your weight directly downward. Your hands are relaxed because you don't like type with fists. That's a big one. They hear that. I've always found that immediately loosens up their fingers. They start like relaxing at the elbows. They're on the keyboard here. It's just a weird keyboard. That's all. And they need to be relaxed enough to use it. If they think about a keyboard and start thinking about typing an email or whatever that is, then it tends to fix things pretty quick. But the knees on the tank is a big one.
Josh, you said something, man, that made me think back years ago. We had a couple of ranges side by side. I had a student who was wiggling like crazy. So I went and I held the motorcycle upright. I said, pick up your feet and put them on the pegs. Because I wanted him to sit on the bike with his feet on his pegs and the knees against the tank to see how tranquil the motorcycle is. If he just sits there, it doesn't do anything. But I said to him, pick up your feet and put them on the pegs, and he stands up. And I said, no, sit back down, pick your feet up and put them on the pegs. He stands up. I said, no, sit back down, pick your feet off the ground and put them on the foot pegs. Meanwhile, the other coaches are on the other side. They're watching me and they're like, what the hell is Lynn doing over there? This guy's standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down. So afterwards, you know, we finally sorted out what I was actually doing. So a couple days later, I have a student on the same issue. And my boss is on the next block doing circles and figure eights with someone. I said to the student, pick up your feet and put them on the pegs. And he looks at me and he picks his feet up and he puts them on the handlebars. So I'm holding the bike and his feet's on the handlebars. And I'm like, oh, holy crap, this is not what I wanted. I said, no.
Wow.
Yeah, and my boss is on the next block. He's like,
that's great.
What's she doing now?
That is a tool though that I've used, Lynn. That comes from the old MSF dirt bike school, where we talked about standing posture and some of the other postures. And you do that, you pinch the front tire and hold the front of the bike and get them to get their feet up on the pegs and really get locked into the bike. And you'd kind of, all right, pull your knees out a little bit and you wiggle the bike and you'd see they're really trying to hold themselves and support on. Then you have them really squeeze the knees in and like, hey, take your hands off the bars. The hands are up in the air. And you can move that bike all around and they're locked to it. I said, see, now you're locked. You're part of that bike. You don't have to hold on. You can see that you're one with the machine. You know, you're a unit.
In the street aspect, I would have them put their knees against the tank and say, okay, take one knee and move it away from the tank. And they would do that and the bike would move. And they'd say, when you're wiggling around, you're making the bike move. Keep your knees against the tank and the bike will be still. And you know, sometimes the light bulb goes off for them.
I use the analogy of when you go into that department store and you see that lazy boy chair and you just got to go sit in it, what's the first thing you do after you sit? They all come up with, you know, oh, I do to recline it. I said, no, no, no. Before you do that, what do? Your arms. When you're on the bike, just sit on the bike, just like you're sitting on that lazy boy chair. That keeps the arms in. And then for the knees, when the knees become an issue, I tell them, take your toes and point them in slightly. And then the knees come in. So, but I found that lazy boy chair, because like when they're like in the clutch control lane, as they approach me, I go like this with the arms, and because they'll be riding like this or holding on tight. But as soon as they bring those arms in, that bike just straightens right up. So I found that analogy to work real well.
Am I the only one that says no butt steering?
Nice.
I have a question for you, Lynn, and this goes back to something that I think Ed brought up earlier. If you had to go into Wired that way and kind of analyze that person a little bit, are they popular, powerful, perfect, or peaceful? What would they be?
You mean the wigglers?
Or the one that, yeah, couldn't sit still.
Well, golly, you know, off the top of my head, I'd say a perfect, but I probably want to think about that a little bit. They definitely want to control the situation.
Okay. That's what popped into my mind. I had to go back and check it and make sure that's what I was thinking, because they're pretty analytical. They're looking at things, trying to get it perfect. This doesn't feel right. I got to try something else. This doesn't feel right. I got to try something else. And one of the things I was taught with people that are so focused on that, and they're making these finite adjustments just over and over again, you have to give them something to think about other than what they're focused on. So ask them, while you're writing or while you're doing this, what can you think of on something else? It kind of distracts them, and then they'll realize when they come back around that, I just did it because I wasn't worried about it and it happened. So somebody who's perfect, has an analytical mind, give them something distracting to think about so as they're not focusing on what they seem to be fidgety about. You're muted. Lynn, you're muted.
It's interpretive dance. Let it happen.
I see that.
Sorry. That plays into on the circuit when we do part 2 with the lane change or on a compact range just by itself. But when they're out there just riding the circuit instead of, you know, in the context of the lane change exercise, and they just go out to do some extra practice, same thing on exercise 6, when they're doing it as a continuous flow, they generally do much better because they're not under the same scrutiny as when they're called one at a time and doing it, and they're kind of doing it in context and their brains are somewhere else, and they do much better.
So just off the top of my head, for what it's worth.
Lynn, you just said something there about where it's more of a group thing versus a one-on-one, one-on-one. I've noticed in exercise 2 that because you have the 6 riders across, you tend to stand in the middle. And I've noticed that the ones directly in front of me have more trouble than the ones at the end. Until I kind of move, I'll give them some points, but then I'll move off kind of away from them. And I found that they'll start grasping it where the people at the end seem to have gotten it right away. And now I'll go over to the ones at the end and point on the, use 2 brake, get into the finer details. But that one-on-one, it was interesting because I think it does kind of bring in some apprehension or nervousness to the students, not in the sense that they're going to panic, but just an anxiety type thing.
The silence is deafening.
It is funny though, when I introduce hand signals, I try to have them guess a lot of the hand signals, and they're really good because a lot of them are real obvious, speed up, slow down. So then when I kind of do the chicken dance, when I'm like, what is that? Somebody usually will say the chicken dance. And I'm like, yes, that's the chicken dance. That's what we're going to teach you next. But no, seriously, you see me doing the chicken dance. I'm just saying, hey, you look a little tense on there. Just kind of relax a little bit.
When they're all tense, I mimic them. I'll get all stiff and then I'll relax and just kind of show them the contrast.
I kind of tell them to breathe too. A lot of times, like in the clutch control, they get stiff and so they don't breathe. So a lot of times I'll go like this, big exhale. And if you get a good exhale out of them, they'll tend to come down too.
Yeah, most of our best actions are taken on an exhale. They just are. Breathe in, slow release, act as you're exhaling. It's not necessarily in the cards, but for an individual student during a break, yeah, you need to chill out, exhale, act as you exhale. I'm going to go over here. You're on break. Leave me alone. Go away. Think about that for a while. I was watching Ted's thing, and actually, I got coached by Jason, believe it or not. This is something Jason taught me, but it doesn't really apply well to the BRC, where, an upright bike is a stable bike. So most of the time when I'm riding, I'm trying not to lean, even if the pace is spirited or peppy. I'm trying to keep the bike as upright as possible. Now that's impossible. I'm going to have to lean the bike to turn no matter what. But I guess that's not parking lot material, So it is interesting when you end up coaching students in a completely different environment that has nothing to do with any of this, and you discover that they are priding themselves on their ability to grind their gas tank into sparks, and that's not an at speed goal. I just had this discussion with, I'm not going to talk about this unless I get asked to, but Don, you asked about this suspect rider that was riding with this group, and yeah, they were counter steering, they were leaning away from the bike at higher speeds in rural roads. That is that is a slow speed method. Save your chicken strips. You can always take them off during a tremble later. There you go. What Mike said.
How did that briefing go? How did your trip go?
It went all right. It went better than I expected. It went better than I expected. The somebody else's student that ended up being a part of the pack. They were confronted with the fact that they were riding too tight, even on the expressway speeds. Chill out, leave some space, relax. It went fine. I had a lot of concerns, so I read all of my typical. I said, hey, will you let me please read all of the stuff that I read before a tour? Only ride the road you can see. If you can't see beyond the curve, then it arrives at a brick wall, and you need to treat it as such. And we got lucky. This particular new rider, 8 months in, is starving for knowledge. They are always interested in knowing better. And I think it's one of those, it's a situation where you got a person who's got ADHD, and they handle it well, because the instant you begin speaking, they begin internalizing everything. So I chose my words as carefully as I could, and I said basically that safety is the priority, and don't ride anything you can't see. Make sure you are processing all the information ahead of you. Leave distance. And it went fine. I was impressed.
So the anxiety you felt was really,
I feel it every time, man. Just vomiting into my helmet all day. But it's all right if you eat pizza, you know, it works out.
But it also shows your commitment to riding safe with others, sharing that commitment, and I think that's pretty important. I think more people should not be afraid to have that discussion before they go out riding. It's all good.
I'm sorry, these texts are dumb as hell. How many? No, I mean, I don't know if it's, I can't. I've got some new zoo jokes, some new elephant jokes. Rita tells elephant jokes. They're not good,
jokes.
but they're pretty good.
None of them are good. That's the point. They're dad jokes.
What's that? Here's, I heard it again today. I said this last time. There's something I hear at least 3 times a day here. And they are, wait. Oh, here comes trouble. They let you out of the house? I hear it 3 times a day. And I heard it this afternoon. I was somebody just chloroform. Give me the chloroform right now.
Robin, what's the common denominator?
The common denominator. It's a towering inferno. There's a variety. Oh, there's so many denominators. Okay,
I would say the common one is that you're the one hearing them.
Oh yeah. Pretty soon I'm just gonna start lip syncing it right in front of them. Or I'm just gonna start saying it with them. Oh, here comes trouble. They let you out of the house? Go away. Both of you go away. Go away right now. Move. I am the common denominator. That's, you know what? That's what'll be on my tombstone. No name. I am the common denominator.
With this happy hour tribe talk that we've been having the last couple of months, I've been enjoying it immensely. I am going to be so looking forward to whenever they can get an IRITS going again to see how many of us show up and have our own private party after the hours, like at a bar nearby or whatever.
I don't think I'll like any of you in person.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Rita. I thought you and I were friends. What the hell with you, lady?
great.
Love you too, bud.
Love y'all.
I thought IRETS was a private party. You just want there to be booze during the breakouts, right, Dennis?
Dennis wants a VIP booth.
Whoever brings the best booze to their breakout session that they facilitate is the best presenter, right?
Garrison's whiskey. Garrison's whiskey.
And if you slur like Rita just did, even better. So, what if there's not an IRETS? Is there any reason why we can't do a virtual IRETS? We've done VRETS. We're getting information that way. We've done lots of tribe talks. We've had tribe talk happy hours. Is there any way that you think that we could possibly throw something together and do breakout rooms? And who would be willing to volunteer to present topics of, say, 30 minutes to an hour long virtually?
I've done several conferences lately that have been all virtual, and it's been really interesting how the various ones have been presented. Minnesota, I don't know, Laura, if you are involved with the Minnesota Transportation Safety or Traffic Safety Conference. Are you involved in that at all? They've been doing one, and instead of doing it all in a matter of a couple, 3 days, they've been doing a session here and there, like once every week or something like that. And if you Google Minnesota Traffic Safety Conference, you should be able to get information, and there may be a session or 2 left yet on that. I've seen some that are doing their sessions spread out over several weeks, and that's the same with the IFZ that Don presented at, where they were doing a few sessions. What was it, Don? Once a week for several weeks?
They were doing, I think, up to 6 sessions a week virtual, meaning people made a video no longer than 20 minutes long on their topic, and then you were allowed to watch that at your convenience. So you could watch in a week anywhere from 6 to 9 different videos. And then they did that for several weeks, probably a little bit longer than I would care to run something like that. But then on the last day, you're allowed to, put questions out, and you could also see like what they call it, like the keynote at the end with all the information. So it's very possible.
Then I did another one recently that I'm looking up to see if I can find the link to it, because they said they were going to put all the videos online, but it was live for 3 days in a row, and it was session after session, and they had lunchtime keynote speakers, and I think they may have had a couple sessions at a time, and you chose which track you wanted to participate in. And I want to say that they were going to put the links to all the videos online at some point. The interesting thing was that one of the breakout sessions I watched, and this was the Rural Road to Zero Virtual Summit. One of the sessions could have been done by Ray Oakes, because it was all kinds of stuff out of a lot of the books that Ray cites on behavioral components of road safety. And to the point where the person even put up an eye chart and talked about visual acuity.
So Rita, which of the formats that you've experienced do you think is the most ideal or would be suited to what we do?
The one that I paid the most attention to was the Rural Road Safety Summit that was 3 days in a row, that I specifically carved out the time in my calendar like you would do for an IRETS, and told my supervisor, I'm going to commit to doing these 3 days at this conference. I will not be available for work. And because I made the conscious effort to dedicate my time to that effort, that's what I did, as opposed to some of the conferences where maybe if I knew that the sessions were being recorded, or in particular, if I knew the sessions were being recorded and I could watch them later, then for me, what I tend to do is go, oh, I can watch that later. I'm going to put it off. And I tend to be less likely to carve out the time to actually watch and focus all my attention on that particular session.
Does it matter if there's a financial investment or not?
So many of them now, because it's much less expensive to put on the virtual. Like the Rural Road Safety Conference cost me $40. And even then there were a couple sessions where maybe the topic didn't pique my interest very much. And I kind of looked at it like some of the students do of, it's only $40 and I'm only missing this one hour session, no big deal.
So I'll go back to the question then. I mean, it's possible, we're capable, but who would like to step up and provide topics for such a thing? Because when it comes to even doing IRETs, people have to volunteer to host or facilitate workshops. Is there anybody in this group who would be willing to do that?
You just went into two different places, because I can sit down and write a list of topics, but I need Josh to actually facilitate them for me.
I don't believe you, but okay.
Maybe we need somebody to be the, voluntold to do things.
Yeah, and I'm on the other side of that equation. If I'm given a topic, I can present it. So that I'm like that. I'm like, because like when I do my QPR trainings, my suicide prevention trainings, because I have the material already there, I can present it all day long. Like, I mean, I always laugh and tell people when I was a young wife, that's the reason I totally bombed at Pampered Chef, is because if somebody would have said, hey, here's a party, go sell some products, I'd have been like, hell yeah, I can sell all the stoneware you want. But because I had to set the party up, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But so I'm on the other side of Jason. So if Jason says, hey, Belinda, here's a topic I want you to present on, I'm going to give you a list, you pick. I can research that and present it all day long, because that's just public speaking is what I do. But if I got to put the time in to like research, you know, that kind of thing, it's difficult for me. I already have too much going on. And so yeah, I mean, if you can find those people that'll partner off, you might be a better chance of doing this instead of having somebody that will have to do all of it at one, you know, all of it together. But if you're willing to find those type A's and type B's, you may be more successful at getting your summit or whatever you want to call it, your conference done.
Yeah, like gaining.
A lot of people won't necessarily volunteer, but if you tell them you're going to do this presentation, you're going to do it on this, if you volunteer them, you know, you mentioned, well, I've got too many other things going on to do this, but if somebody helps you make it a priority, it's amazing how you can find time to accomplish the goal regardless. And I've done some IRETS presentations, and I'm not a person who I necessarily want to do them, but I figured if I came up with a topic and committed myself to having to do a presentation that would essentially force me to learn about that topic and figure out how I'm going to do that presentation. So I uncomfortably put myself into that position because I knew it would force me to grow. And that's what, you know, none of us are necessarily experts on whatever we might present, but if we put ourselves up to that challenge, it's going to help us grow. And if we don't do it, well, sometimes, like, you know, sometimes we do need someone to volunteer us, and we're willing to step up.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rita. I always don't mind helping. I'm sure other people can do it better than I can, but I do it as a learning and a growing experience, and kind of to put myself a little bit out of my comfort zone to be better overall.
Don, in your mind, how would this be different from what we were doing with the Sunday Tribe Talks and having people choose a topic to present for those?
Very little difference. And, you know, that's what I'm kind of getting at for, God, it's October now, right? Almost November. Since the end of April, the end of March, we've been getting together every single week and talking wonderful things and learning from each other. And initially every Sunday, but then I got, you know, overwhelmed with life. And, you know, we've been at least doing one tribe talk, not tribe talk happy hour, but tribe talk every month. So if we set, let's say, a weekend up, maybe sometime in January, and say, hey, we're going to do this, I develop a schedule, provide the ability for people to get together and do this kind of stuff. I don't seriously don't want to go into planning something like this only to have nobody show up and say, yeah, I'll help out, or I'll get together with so-and-so and we'll put on, you know, a 20-minute presentation. Right now, I can't get anybody to even do tribe talks. Now,
hold on. There's a crew of us in here.
I know.
Right now.
I know it's been a long summer and people have been working, and, you know, I accept that. I completely get it. In fact, it's a great segue into letting you know the next couple weeks, kind of looking for some help, because I'm going to go do some farming. So I may not be available to run happy hour on Wednesday nights. If you want to step up and do it, let me know.
That's what we have Rita for.
Well, Rita may be farming too. You never know.
No, she's got a BMW, not a Harley.
BMWs now.
Obviously, I support this whole endeavor, Don, and I'm behind you and a willing participant. But I guess that how are we going to get not the same 30 people to be here? I want to see, like I want engagement from.
That's up to me. I'll take. That's my due out.
How many of you have gone out of your way to tell other people about this happening? The people who aren't aware of it or may not be aware of it. Have you reached out to other folks and said, hey, there's this thing going on. Why don't you pop in?
Okay, hold up. Can I, no, wait, say that again? I have to talk after this eventually.
Have you told other rider coaches about this who have not been traditionally involved?
That would, okay, yeah, that's okay. So writing for the web, there's supply and demand. There's information that is, I would love to talk about this because I have a high opinion of it, or it's a topic that's interesting me. Then there's demand, information that needs to be heard. So if we don't, I'm putting it out there in the wind just to say, like, there's that information which people may actually want to hear, and we're not able to tap into what that information request is, only because all of this is based in a niche area of motorsports. So, I mean, I can tell you right now that if somebody asked me to discuss group riding, my point is, what are qualifying topics? I'm kind of curious to know what your opinion is on qualifying topics, things that need to be said or discussed, and who's the right person for the job,
So, Robin, what I will tell you is that any topic is a good topic, because the more different types of topics we have, the more people that are interested to find something they would like to see. Because not everybody's interested in listening to Don talk, and I get that. Not everybody wants to talk about grief with Melinda, but the fact is there's enough rider coach, rider training topics, rider education topics out there for everybody. But you have to have people willing to do it in order to make it work. And I'm going to give you, because I'm going to go a little bit over, I'm going to explain something. There are 793 people got an email at 5 a.m. this morning. 793 people dealing with coaching, program administrator, rider coach traders. 224 of them opened it. And 49 actually clicked through to see what was in the email. They didn't just delete it after they opened it. So 569 rider coaches who were invited to be here didn't even open the email. Now, I understand. I get it. That's how marketing works. 28.2% of the people opened the emails that were invited. 5.2% clicked through to at least look at something from the email. But I'm only one person. I think I'm doing pretty good at reaching out. We got a good turnout tonight. At one point, we were almost 30. I will work getting more people involved, as I always do. What we need is people for the content, and then we can make something like this work. Does that make sense?
If you have the supply,
your number just went up by one.
Thank you.
If you have the supply, how do you create the demand? So Belinda has information on grief. How do you create a demand, or how do you tie that back into being a rider coach such that rider coaches want to hear the information that Belinda can supply? Or how do you take group riding information and turn it into a product that rider coaches want?
When there's not going to be any free lunch.
Nope. But I will tell you, you guys are still here. You're still trying. That's intrinsic motivation. And I've been thinking about intrinsic and extrinsic motivations quite a bit. Just sent a text to my son about it because he's worried about the election. I told him, stop worrying. It's okay. I don't care what happens because I'll still be an American and I'll do what I need to do. Always have been for my entire life. But if you're not intrinsically motivated to better yourself, if it's not important to you, it won't happen. If you're extrinsically motivated by ego, you may stop in for once or twice and never see us again because it's not important to you. I get it. It's kind of like the research I did on what are the best writer coach candidates. How do you know intrinsically that they're the people we want to be writer coaches? Well, they have to have high emotional intelligence, good character. They have to be competent, and they need to care about others, because if they don't care about others, they're being extrinsic, dealing with ego, and it's not going to happen. But I truly believe, and I have faith, or else I wouldn't be doing this, that there are enough people out there that truly have the faith, that are motivated to do this, that we could do something like a virtual IRETS. And so if this is that, go get them speech, then it's a go get them speech, but it's only because I believe in it that much. And I hope you do too.
Although in all seriousness, I can't wait till we all get together in person.
That will be such a blessing.
I'm not going to drink any less. I'm just saying.
Well, thanks to Rita, I know where the alcohol stores are in Columbus or Cincinnati or wherever the hell.
Is it going to be Kerrville? Come down to Kerrville.
That was in Columbus there, Jason, when we had that last IRETS. And I know Columbus well enough because my sister lives there. She shows me all the bars.
Well, fantastic.
Jason was on 4 wheels. I sent him on a beer run.
I did that, and then the nice people at the company that produces 3-wheelers might have paid for my bar tab.
You don't say.
Yeah, it'll happen. Don, I think all of these things are great ideas. I'm worried, or maybe not worried isn't the right word. So you're essentially kind of asking us to put on a TED Talk, being that we're doing this virtually.
Not as far as a TED Talk. Lower your expectations. Just people getting together to have a good time and talk about what we love.
Okay.
Because the TED Talk doesn't have back and forth. And I think one of the great values of what we've done over the last 9 months has been the fact that we talk. We communicate back and forth. If it was direct in nature, meaning somebody's giving you a lecture like in TED Talk, you may gain something, but I will tell you, more people gain more from our conversations than a TED Talk.
I agree with that wholly. Having been to enough IRETSs to see what's going on, it's a lot, not all, but majority of a 1.5 hour session is one-way information. It would seem in the ones that I've gone to. So I guess part of me is seeing that, and the people, the personalities that I see here, the people that see me like, oh shit, it's Jason. We typically have strong personalities, and I'm afraid that we will drown out everybody else, those people that we want to be here so badly to give an opinion, where it will essentially be that it's a little bit of a sit and get. Not that I don't want to participate, because now that I've heard Belinda speak and know that I can whip out a topic and she's going to present it, I am so freaking excited.
I was going to bring that up. Like, what if we all have a select issue of people that were like, okay, I know this person would be good for this, and then you pick their topic. So we all are info told. Is that what you said? Voluntold. We're all voluntold by our peers.
As far in my life, that is a Rita Liebeck term.
That's right. But it's perfect. I mean, but the person who's being voluntold can can agree to, they can say yes to it, or they don't have to. This could be interesting, to some degree.
Kind of.
It's an interesting it's an option. I mean,
As a part to go down the entire Tribe Talk happy hour, which I'm very, very fond of. However, I have joined a few Tribe Talks with Rita from the range as we're cleaning up to try and figure out what the hell's going on here. And not taking ourselves too seriously, it would seem that the presenter needs to have at least 2 drinks before they get on stage, and then the rest of us feel better about ourselves.
Oh, that could depend on the presenter.
Yeah, me and Dennis got this covered. I mean, between the two of us, we might have our own beer company.
To each their own.
So that's good where you make it a weekend. So then it's when it's the after hours, that's when the fun starts,
So I'll seriously consider this. It just it's popped into my mind before, but I feel that maybe it's potentially something we could do. And like usual, I'll run some of the traps, as I used to say when I was in the military, to see if there are some viable ways to get more people involved, as I'm sure they are. But I can only hijack so many emails. I'm almost at 1/5 of all the rider coaches. I think I'm doing okay.
That ain't bad. I mean,
no.
And you're running this on a YouTube channel?
Afterwards, after I do the editing, I do. And if you want to highlight that and get me some money, I'm all into it, because
get some sponsorship going.
It's costing.
That's what I was going to say about doing a virtual IRETS, is like, who's going to provide the swag bags and how are we all going to get the free stuff?
Oh, you want swag too? My God. That's high-end people.
And lunch. I want lunch with good dessert.
Oh.
One of the virtual conferences in which I participated, if you signed up early enough for the conference, they mailed you a coffee cup with the logo on for the conference. And then one of the contests they had was you posted a mug shot of you and the mug, or the mug in some situation, and then people could vote for their favorite mug shot. And then at one of the evening cocktail hours after official sessions, they presented some prize to the winning mugshot. So it's possible to have some kind of gift bag. Another conference that I saw, they had already created the goodie bags. They had already done actual bags with the logo of the conference printed on them. And I see that on the conference sign up web page, they had put, we've taken all the bags that we had printed and we gave them to the local food pantry, since you weren't going to be here in person to pick up your bags.
All of those things sound really nice. If I was doing mugs, I think it would go very much down the drain, as I'm a huge fan of the University of North Texas.
All right. So let me
Go
wrap
Aardvark.
up tonight. Mike and I have been texting back and forth here a little bit on motivations and intrinsic and extrinsic motivations, why people would show up and do stuff. I'm going to put something out there. I've said this in private before to at least a few people, but this is, once again, only Don's personal opinion, thoughts that go through my brain. Within the last 7 or 8 years, MSF has completely revamped the curriculum. We went from BRC to BRCU. We've gone through 2 iterations of quality assurance certifications, 2 of the bigger programs that really have an effect on riders' education in the United States. And one of the reasons why I did my research, and this is where I think the third leg of the stool sets, is rider coaches, our instructors. We've done this great thing in making everything better the next leg that we really have to focus on is each other and raising the level of professionalism and expertise at how we do business. And what that will do is make a real steady stool for writer education in the future. So I'll leave you with that thought as I close up tonight. I appreciate you showing up. Great turnout, some good ideas. Thank you for helping me on my do outs for tomorrow morning. I got a little time now to kind of massage it and actually act like I know what I'm doing. And once again, that's a testament to the great people that show up here. So thank you. I'm going to say it again. Don't take it the wrong way. I love you all for what you do, for what we all do. And I'll see you next Wednesday, unless I'm out driving a tractor. However, this will still go on.
Thanks,
I love
Don.
you too, Donald. I
Have a
love
good
you
night.
too.
Thanks,
night,
everybody.
everybody.
Good to see you. Good night.
Good to see you, Ian.
Thank you.
How you doing, Chief?
Hey, I'm doing good. I was gonna chime in a couple times, but I'm just happy to be here listening.
Dude, I'm just happy you showed up. Where's